Bienvenue! I'm going to call this a third installment of A Thesis to Please Jesus. A little bit of background and a little bit about the word of Jesus Christ, or Jeheshua, or whatever you want to call him, and how it pertains to what we've been talking to already. Anyway, so yeah, I was born to Madeline Marie Chameau down here by the Contraband Bayou, where I grew up in a little place called Brownsville in Lac Charles, Louisiana. And what the main thing I can remember from being with my mother was, never be afraid to express your feelings. And not only that, but it's actually a necessity to express your feelings. But, whether that's, I love you, Mom, or you, Madeline, the idea was, no matter what range of that expression is, let's talk about it and let's see what we can both do to make it better. So if a problem arises, it's not whose fault is it or anything like that. It's more about what we can both do or what we can all do to make it better. She always encouraged me to stay creative and to never place my value in what someone else thought about me. This is in the old Cajun bones, the old Acadian bones, even from before we came to the New World, is that goodness comes from within, and that everyone has a unique purpose and a place, and the only one who can figure that out is you, the person themselves. So you can't tell me what I need to do, and I really can't tell you what you need to do. You got to figure that out for yourself. One of my earliest memories is about 3.5 years old. My mama had to go into rehab. She was a single mother, but she also come from a very trying childhood where there was various kinds of abuse, and she was, she started using things to escape that at an early age, and also was fed psychiatric medicine in order to deal with that from an early age, which without the right guidance and understanding of how your neurochemistry and neuropeptides work, you really can't it's not like just putting in some oil. Oh, they need a little bit of serotonin or a little bit of dopamine or a little mood stabilizer and they'll be okay. It just really doesn't work like that. So anyway, my mom told me before she went, she said, look, your mama's got a lot of problems. They ain't got nothing to do with you, but I have to go away for a little while so I can get a grip on this thing so we can be even more together, and so that can be even more healthier for you. And so I went to this little place. It was out in the woods. There was a bunch of other kids in a similar situation. We had a trampoline. We had woods to go into. They had ponies to watch run around. And one of my first memories being at this place is when we got cereal for the first time. And I looked at the cereal, and without really thinking, I asked, hey, do you got, I don't know what I said, Fruit Loops or whatever my favorite was at the time. And the lady kind of looks at me, and she says, if you don't like what we have to eat, you don't have to eat it. And it really struck me. Even then, I remember thinking, man, I should never let my personal preference get in the way of appreciating what's being put in front of me. Because they didn't start off asking me, hey, we got a variety, what would you like? They put something in front of me because that's what they had, and they were taking care of me. So I should have looked to appreciate that first. And that really stuck with me, and it was real important to me. But more so than that, after about the second or third night of crying myself to sleep, missing my mama and all that, I remember asking the lady the next night, do you mind if I get an extra pillow to kind of snuggle with? Because I always slept with my mom as long as I can remember and as long as I was with her. And so she gave me that pillow, and I remember snuggling that pillow and having this overwhelming feeling of my mother in my heart, and that this physical separation didn't even compare to the presence in my own heart and the relationship that me and my mother had within me. So it really filled me with an essence of, despite my mother having this life and having to go through a bunch of stuff, the best of her was inside of me, working with me. And that really had a profound impact on me as a human being to experience that. And then later on down the road, I never really met my daddy or really knew who he was. I remember talking to him on the phone just a few times randomly. But about 5 years old, I can remember just bawling in agony over not having a father. It's a little bit different than my mom, because as soon as I started being in agony over my mom, that presence just overwhelmed me. But with my father, it was a little difficult. It was a lot of pain and suffering because I didn't know the dude, didn't feel anything from him, all this other stuff. But as I was really crying and shaking and getting intense with it, again, I was overwhelmed with this beautiful feeling of, all the different men and women in my life, young and old, who had fathered me in different ways, and how the essence of all of that and the best version of all of that was already inside my heart, kind of like with my mom. It was just this overwhelming essence of family in my heart already with me. And not only that, but I got to pay attention to the tangible things that all these people were doing to help father me. The world itself even. And so that really set me up for a beautiful life, to have this tragedy, but also to overcome it in such a way. And this is natural to a child. This wasn't because I knew some formula or because my mama said this or that. It was simply because of the way of life we spent and lived together that this transferred into me, and that I was able to recognize this, And so after, when my mom could no longer take care of me, I moved in with my nanny, my Aunt Debbie, and she, before then I wasn't really making good grades in school, whatever that means for a first and second grader. But I don't think I made any A's. I might have had a B every now and again, mostly C's and then some D's and unsatisfactories or whatever they called it back then. So I didn't really place my value in the school system. I just went there to cut up and have fun and meet people, pass a good time. But my aunt sat me down and she said, "Look, Josh, if you know mathematics, you'll be able to know all of this stuff. You'll be able to do anything. You can already do anything you want to do in this world." And both my mom and her always told me that you can be anything in this world, president of the United States if you want to be. But my aunt kind of got more specific, and she said, "Look, if you know math, all these other academic disciplines will fall into place, and you'll be able to hit it up." So I learned math, and you can see in my second grade school year, the first half is like C's and D's, and the second half is A's and B's, which was kind of funny. And so moving along, I realized that if I was able to enjoy my time in the classroom, find a reason to love and appreciate the person that's teaching me, I would naturally absorb and be able to have access to a little bit of their brilliance. And science backs me up on this, and that's kind of what we were talking about in the last video. When you appreciate someone, when you have a shared micro moment of positivity, your reflector neuron, your mirror neurons sync up, and you literally have a piece of that person's brilliance inside of you because you respected them and because you loved them and had some fun with them. And this was something that I was practicing in school. So moving along, I go to high school. I make A's and B's. I graduate with I don't know if it was a 3.8 or a 3.7 or whatever it was, summa cum whatever. I was a first team all district defensive end, which I was a small guy back then. I wasn't as big as I was now. And what they told us, I remember being told this, I'm not sure if this was 9th grade or 8th grade, but around that time, they said football is 90% mental and only 10% physical. And that 10% physical is just having your body being able to take a hit. It's not about being the strongest or the fastest. And I ran with that. And I was able to just overcome any self-imposed limitations to get the job done, to have self-discipline, to push through the pain, and to be able to do some pretty amazing things as a little guy, as an underdog. And I had a lot of fun with that. But on top of that, I was making, A's and B's the whole time, doing great on my ACTs and whatever else, BCQs and all that. So, yeah, you know, it was a blessing. This was kind of a gift to me that my mom gave to me just to be natural, and that my aunt helped, you know, kind of kick me in the right direction.
Hey, this is what make you feel like, you know.
Before I get silly and cut up on this beat, let me tell you a little story, a little history of me. Little tyke raised up in Brownsville, like Charles, Louisiana, in the woods is where we chill. Little tyke raised up in Brownsville, like Charles, Louisiana, in the woods is where we chill. Government housing when the hood was still a home, of mutual aid and respect, no one was ever left alone. Used to go with 2 quarters and get an ice cup. Bring that shit back when it's empty for a cookie, that's what's up. Cutting up, eating buttercups, playing with Tonka trucks, not giving a fuck. You test my gut while I test your chin. Again and again, again and again. I was built to last, I was built to win. You could be a foe, you could be a friend. As long as you real, we don't play pretend. As long as you real, we don't play pretend. Immune to the rule of the Palpatine, it was a long time ago, but the Jedi win. Immune to the rule of the Palpatine, it was a long time ago, but the Jedi win. Mama always told me to be real with how I feel and that it takes good effort to increase my skill. Mama always told me to be real with how I feel and that it takes good effort to increase my skill. What looks like a kill? She said I was gonna be a heartbreaker. She was alone, but we had a home. She was a housemaker. But sometimes mental illness would take her. Co-occurring disorders of addiction was the flavor. But she was my savior and would tell me straight up, Mom's got problems, ain't got nothing to do with you, so keep your head up. And you can do anything in this world you put your mind to. And whatever you choose, Mama's 100% behind you. Let me remind you, if you really need help, put the call out and someone will find you. Let me remind you, if you really need help, put the call out and someone will find you. Years later, I started to cry over not having a father, not understanding why. Years later, I started to cry over not having a father, not understanding why. To being away from my mother was one thing. I learned to feel her inside of my heart and let my heart sing. But when it came to my dad, there was agony and depression. It took everything I had to break through and be renewed by everything I know to be true. The universe is inside of you. Everyone that you know is a father of you, and the best of the best is inside of you. Ain't no one can hide from you. Everybody gotta ride with you. Ain't no one can hide from you. Everybody gotta ride with you. Now it's time to move out the car. Let's have country bumpkin, have hood rap regardless. Now it's time to move out the car. Let's have country bumpkin, have hood rap regardless. Since my uncle, buddy, and nanny not taking care of me, they told me I could do anything if I understood it mathematically. Infinity, she said I could have the American presidency, and that my presence in their life was a gift from divinity. Her son, my cousin brother, would beat the shit out of me. It was all out of love, and I promise you I'm as tough as I can be. Made out of man out of me. 358 first team all district DE. You can't see me making good grades in high school. That shit was easy. Made a man out of me. 358 first team all district easy. Made it a man out of me. 358 first team all district easy. You can see me making good grades in high school. That shit was easy. Made out of man out of me. 358 first team all district DE. You can't see me making good grades in high school. That shit was easy. And then, you know, I go to LSU. It's the only place I applied to. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I didn't want to go play football in college because football is a full-time job in high school, much less in college. And if you're really wanting to learn and expand your horizons, and if you got to work yourself through college, which I kind of had to do too, even with the scholarships, you really ain't got time for all that. So I put the ball aside, and I went to university to get a universal education, you know. And in my second semester, me and my best friend Aaron Broussard, were riding bicycles, and we were hit by a drunk driver going 65 miles an hour on River Road. And this was an intense experience, you know. I remained conscious the whole time. The first thing I can remember is like being in an undertow, and instead of uh, water and sand, it was rocks, glass, and cement, and it was pretty intense. Aaron got hit first. He was riding right behind me. He was on a little bit smaller bike, and he was a smaller dude, so the car hit him towards the middle upper of his back. The car hit me and down towards my pelvis. So we're riding. He flies a little further than I do, and I'm the fact that I got hit here, it was almost like I went, forward and backwards at the same time. I was like going full, like I said, it was like being in an undertow. It was very disorienting. And I ended up, kind of just sitting in the ditch after I stopped rolling. And I look to my left and I can see Aaron's over there not breathing and a pool of blood. And I knew right then that, he had probably left his body. It was almost certain. But I felt like my back was broke. I had fractured my pelvis. I had cuts from head to toe. I had fractured elbows. My skin was gone on my chest. Cuts and glass inside of me everywhere. But anyway, I thought my back was broke, but I said, I got to stand up. I got to stand up and wave some people down. So I stood up, and it all went black except for what looked like a molecule of red, and it all came back in shades of red. And I'm waving there, and a couple of cars pass, and I'm not sure if I'm even there. I'm like, am I even here? Are these people seeing me? But I don't blame them for not stopping, because there's a bloody man in middle of the night waving his hand. But finally, a wrecker stops at the same time that a nursing student stops. The wrecker starts coming to me. I said, go check on him. And then I sit down and immediately start rocking. And then when the nursing student came over, I said, look, you see my camelback down there? You hear that phone ringing in my camelback on the side of the ditch? I said, go pick up the phone. I said, it's my fiance at the time. Tell her what happened. And, after that, they load me into the ambulance. And I know this later because one of the owners of the company I worked for, I was working at Capital Cyclery, and one of the owners said he knew some of the EMTs on the scene, and they said that if they wouldn't have been at the rodeo right down the road that night, the ambulances already, that I'd have bled to death, no doubt. If they had come from the normal spot, I'd have bled to death. But anyways, because this is very serious. So as I'm in the ambulance and they're taking me to the hospital, I hear them say, I forget what the code was, but we already have 227 on the scene, expecting another upon arrival. So they were expecting me potentially to die when I got to that hospital. And I remember the nurse, cutting off my clothes, and I'm conscious and lucid, so I'm thinking, maybe I'll be all right. I look at him, I say, hey man, am I gonna make it? And he doesn't change his expression. He says, I've seen worse men, and keeps on cutting my clothes. Now during this time, like I said, I'm completely conscious and I'm experiencing this pain. I'm not trying to escape it. I'm trying to be there with it and feel every sensation. Because through football, I learned to appreciate pain. But this was a whole nother level of that. And what flooded my consciousness was the story of Christ and how he suffered for the benefit of humanity. And as soon as I had that thought, I thought of all the people in my life that had took on suffering in various different ways so that my life may be better. And I was kind of flooded with this feeling, but also experiencing this extreme pain. And so I'm at the hospital. They can't give me nothing for pain or nothing because they don't know what's damaged internally or nothing. So I had to sit there with no anesthesia or no nothing for about 3 hours. And one of the things I had to do was roll on my side so a doctor could stick his hand in this big old open wound in my back so he could feel around to make sure my organs were okay. I remember sitting there like a dog you see on the side of the road, just trying to cope. For hours. A few of my fiance's friends were in Baton Rouge at the time, and they got there before she got there because she was a couple hours away. and I remember them saying, "Hey, his fiance's about to be here. Could you please wipe down the room before she gets here?" And I wasn't paying no attention. But then after she said that, I kind of looked around, and they start wiping the machines, the floor, and all kind of shit. And at one point, there was this nurse trying to give me a antiseptic, a shot to numb the area where I needed a stitch on my eye. And she was trying to get to it and she couldn't. And I said, well, how many stitches is it? She said, oh, it's just one, but I can't seem to get to it. I said, ma'am, considering everything I've been through, I said, why don't you just go ahead and give me that stitch? We'll call it my Superman stitch, And we kind of laughed about that. I was just trying to stay light in this place of darkness. And it was very difficult because, that doctor who I was talking about who stuck his hand in me, before I rolled over and did that, they said, okay, the doctor's in here, he needs to stick his hand in you. I said, okay, give me a second, before I roll over. The doctor goes, yeah. My guy was just ruining his day because I asked for one Mississippi just to get my breath going so I could turn over. Remember, I ain't got no anesthesia. I got fractured everything's, So at that time, I was like, I just yelled and let him stick his fucking hand in me and be going about his way. Oh, everything looks fine. Oh, thanks, doc. But the nurses were great. And they all told me, they said, look, as soon as you can walk, we can release you. And to be honest with you, they didn't want me there because I didn't have insurance. I'm a poor person. They were ready to get me out of there. And that's fine. I was ready to get the hell out of there too. So anyway, I can remember laying down after they got everything to stop bleeding and made sure everything's cool and took their x-rays. And I remember sitting up in extreme pain. And I'd lay back down in extreme pain. And it was like doing a rep. But I would do it in reps. I wouldn't just stop for a minute. As soon as I would calm down for a second, I'd sit back up again. And then I'd lay back down. And then I could sit up and then put my feet on the edge. And then I would lay back down for a second, catch my breath. And then I would do that. And all of a sudden, I'm walking steps. And they're amazed by this. And this was really intense. But because of this, I was able to get back to class a week later on crutches, bleeding through my shirts and everything else. But I needed to move forward. I couldn't just stay there doing nothing. So I had to go forward through this. And this was a very trying time. And the man who died, who was with me, my best friend Aaron, was one of the best people on the planet. And I'm not saying this because he passed and it's all nostalgic. I'm saying, I'm not sure. He definitely didn't take advantage of women. I don't think he might have slept with one woman. But he wasn't, he wasn't like most of the guys that I was around who were, predators. Say hi to everybody. I'll be right back. Let me check on these guys. I'm back. Okay, so, after this accident happened, I was pretty fragile and frail, as you can imagine. And about a month or so after it took place, not moving around too much. I started developing a little belly, but also felt real feeble. And so I started working out again, pretty hardcore, pretty much 6-7 days a week. And I started getting real pissed off. I started getting real angry at the man who did this to us, the man who hit us. I even went so far as to knowing where he lived. Obviously, I knew his name, I knew his address. And I started having visions of revenge. I had visions of kicking in his door, being all ripped up, which I was, and with a sawed-off shotgun and pointing it at him, letting him know that he had no control over the situation and that he basically had to accept whatever it is I wanted to do to him. And I was really building this up. I was really visualizing it and getting real mad. And I remember one day, I said, hold on, let me just sit and really think about how I feel about this person. And as I did that, I got flooded with my love for this man, for all people, no matter who they are, but for this guy too, despite what I feel like he had done wrong to me. And I thought about tangibly all the things that this guy was doing in his life to honor what he did and to make better himself. And I was flooded with that. So, it was then, not too long after that, that I got my first two and only two tattoos, and one, you know, is love. You can't really see it, but I'll show you sometime later that it says love, and one that says hate. And it wasn't like love and hate. It was uh, hatred, and really diving into it and really feeling it was like a trampoline or a springboard into a greater understanding of love. So it wasn't like love versus hate. It was love, and then experiencing some pain, appreciating it, really diving into it, and it revealing to you an even greater love, an even greater life. And that's what happened. That's what I was doing when I was a child at 3 and at 5 and whatever. Uh, but you know, you get caught up in life and you get into practicing different things and you get away from your heart a little bit. But I was getting back to my heart at this point. I realized that that hatred did nothing but build my love for this person and for humanity and for all people. And so, you know, a few years down the road, I'm getting towards the end of my collegiate career at LSU. I had completed 3.5 years, was in mid-semester 2005 in the spring, and I got called early in the morning, sometime around 4 o'clock in the morning, that my mom was in an accident and that she wasn't going to make it. She was alive at the moment, but they weren't expecting her to live much longer. So I hightailed it back to Lake Charles, and I held this woman's hand and I sung to her for hours before she passed away. I let her know that I was there for her and that I'd always be with her and that she'd always be with me. And this was very, very trying for me because I didn't have, at that point, the best relationship with my mother. We were starting to reconnect, and, you know, but I was also pushing away in ways that I didn't need to push away anymore. I was protecting myself because of the pain I experienced as a teenager and as a young man. But I didn't need to do that. I could have been a little more caring and a little more connected with her. But I didn't. But I did get the chance to sing to her and be with her as she finally passed away, or the machine stopped helping her breathe, or however you want to put it. You know? And after that, it was pretty amazing, because at my mom's funeral, you know, because the perspective is, no matter how bad it is, this too is a blessing. I don't know how or why, but if you accept the trauma and you say that there's meaning and goodness in here, without knowing why, but just feeling it, you're able to really experience the goodness of the situation. And at my mama's funeral, there was over 270 people that signed the books and that come talk to me and say, you know, your mom's the reason I'm sober today. She's the reason I went to school. She's the reason I passed a class. She was going to McNeese towards the end of her degree in sociology, and she had other associate's degree, and she had people from all classes, the high class and low class, saying Madeline changed my life for the better. And I remember when I was getting flooded with all that goodness, thinking, man, if I had one person say that about me, I'd be okay to die. And it really meant a lot for me. And so when my mama passed, I made the decision on my own to come back and finish up at McNeese, and to leave LSU and Baton Rouge and to come home. And through this decision and through my mom's passing, I met Laura. At the time, Laura Landry. And this woman helped bring everything to me. Everything that I thought I had that was below the surface, that was unrecognized, became recognized and practiced through my life with this woman. The mother of my children, the keeper of my soul. And I know it was directly related to me honoring my mother, honoring the passing of my mother, and wanting to reconnect with family, that I was able to have my own family and have my own partner and have someone to resonate with and to be with and to share life struggle with. And then our story together is going to be a whole nother video, because we've been through it and we go through it and we work it out. And that's going to be one I'm going to save for later. But what I would like to share, and this is something that no one told me. The only thing I really knew about God growing up was that it's omnipresent, all powerful, all present, and to me that was infinite. I always contemplated infinity since I can remember. I remember playing the game. Well, 100 plus 100. Oh yeah. Well, what about 1,000 plus 1,000? Oh yeah. What about infinity plus infinity? It was just a concept we played with, but also it was very real because even the shittiest shit that was ever shot could be integrated into an infinite amount of meaning and purpose and beauty. And that was a practice and an experience that I had. So infinity being real and being a real concept and being something that you can use to better your life was not foreign to me at all. And I knew that that's kind of what these people, the people who were involved in Christ outwardly, the message that they were kind of getting at, but not really practicing. So, so I really didn't pay too much. I don't really pay too much about what other people say about things. I just look to my own heart to figure it out. And now I've reconnected with the Bible a little bit and reconnected with the words of Christ. And I said to myself, man, God, they don't. Look at that. He's saying it clear as day and ain't nobody listening. So to the best of my ability, I'd like to share some of that with you. The first one is, the birds of the sky neither reap nor sow, yet God takes care of them. Solomon in all his glory is not adorned as beautifully as the wildflowers in the field that are only to be cut down next season or for the harvest. How much will God's eternal children be adorned? Take no thought. Do not worry for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. If you're worried about tomorrow, where's your faith in being taken care of? Not only that, it says plain as day, having enough for the day is sin in enough of itself. So if you got more than enough for today, yet you're worried about how to increase your profit margin tomorrow, you're not in the way of Christ. And not only that, but as we looked at in part 2, is that it literally creates a deficit in your ability to cognitively function and to empathize with people, which is the main reason that human beings are even here. We showed that higher incentives lead to worse cognitive performance, and people of higher class or moneyed individuals or people who think that they're powerful literally they downshift their brain, functionally lobotomize their prefrontal cortex and become more nasty. They become nasty people. They call it acquired sociopathy, downshifting, a vagal tone, or empathy deficit. So when you're focused on money and not focused on the fact that you got enough for today and to be in that praise, that Christ isn't talking about a belief system. He's talking about the mechanics of your physiology. Okay? And I'm realizing that now. I don't know, what everybody else is doing with it, but I realize that now. So what Jesus also said is, wherever I am, you are. I'm one with the Father is one with me, and we are one together. He says, you don't need recommendation. You are a living letter of God's word. The anointing that exists in him exists in you. You need not what no other man can teach you. Woe to you, the keepers of the law, for you have cast out the keys of knowledge, for you did not enter into yourself, and you kept those who were going into themselves from entering themselves. You hindered them from doing what we're supposed to do. And this way is the hard way. It's not easy. It's not easy to go into yourself and to figure it out for yourself. Jesus also says, if your mind be single, your whole body will be filled with light. Single point focused on what? On the Christ command. The Christ command is, give your love to God, love God with all your mind, heart, body, and soul, and not only that, but love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we saw the physiological, biological, physical benefits of love in the last video. It's undeniable what mutual appreciation does, what a micro moment of shared positivity does, what Dr. Thomas Lewis was talking about, excuse me, in what biological love is we literally, when we respect and spend time and love another person, we gain access to their internal experience. Not only that, but we feel predisposed to care for it. And we know it because we have it inside us. Loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul. What does that mean? That means loving mathematics. Because this is creation. Loving all of creation with all of your heart means knowing about math, loving math, knowing about physics, loving physics, knowing about biology, psychology, anthropology, loving these things. Loving all of this beautiful creation, loving nature, loving children. Speaking of children, they say, who is the greatest in the kingdom? Who is the greatest in the kingdom? He pulls up a kid and says, this one right here. Lest ye be converted unto a child, you won't enter into the kingdom. The kingdom of heaven where? The kingdom of heaven does not come with observation. It's not over here or over there, for the kingdom is within you. The kingdom is within you. This anointing is within you. You are one with Jesus when you enter yourself. Not only that, but when you do this, you will do even greater things than him. So, if you're worried about how you're going to take care of tomorrow, when your lights are on for today, when you're worried about where the food's going to come from next week, when you got more than enough to eat right now, you're not following the word of Jesus. Not only that, but you're not following what optimal human functioning says about the science behind it. And so when I reconnected to the Bible and I started coming across these kind of things, I said, why is not no one listening? People are buying fancy cars, worried about their bills and all this other stuff, and they're taking themselves out of today, out of praise, and they develop an acquired sociopathy. It's not like, oh, is it good or is it bad? This ain't morals. This is physics. This is math. This is mechanics. And not only that, but this is in the bones of the Akkadian people. This is in the bones of Cajun people. Now, whether they pay attention to it or not, that's on their deal. But this is how our ancestors have been living for a long time. And so I used to say, I used to have a lot of interesting choice words to say about the Bible and Jesus and all this other stuff. But now I realize, there's some goodness there. There's some genuine goodness. It's just that no one's paying attention to it. Everybody's worried about what they look like, or I don't know what they're worried about because it ain't my concern. I got more than enough for today. I got kids to have fun with. I got my beautiful wife. I got all the food I could eat, all the grass to play in, all the trees to climb. And that's my focus. And when you do that, your body is filled with the light of consciousness, the light of being connected with universal entropy. You're literally designed for this. So what did we get through? What did the first video of A Thesis to Please Jesus say? There exist previous controls and constraints, lacks and limitations. But if you accept them as they are, an internal force will erupt that gives you an insight or a way to go forward in a way that's tangibly beneficial. That's that internal. That's that looking inside and doing even greater things. So the word of Jesus is the same thing as the word of science, is the same thing as the very process of mathematics. What is mathematics? Mathematics is focusing on a problem and then getting your mind out the way. Staying patient, focused, and letting the mindfulness erupt from within you that gives you a tangible way to move forward. It's in the Bible. It's mathematics. And it's what all the sciences are starting to understand and get research on. It's what optimal human functioning is. It ain't nothing to know. It ain't nothing to research. It ain't nothing to read about. It's something to practice. Practice loving everyone in front of you all the time. I'm going to leave you with how I wrote it, because I love how I wrote it here, and I'm going to put this link in the doobly-doo. But it says, woe to you, keepers of the law, for the letter kills, and what comes out of your mouth defiles you. Stop looking outwardly For within you is the anointing of the kingdom of God, holding the keys of knowledge. The way is hard and the path is narrow, and few are those who will enter inside themselves. You need no one to teach you, sorry. Wherever Jesus is, we are. If we humble ourselves to become more childlike and give our love to all, we will do even greater. So take no thought as your own. Let genuine understanding be a gift. Worry not for tomorrow or today. Having enough right now is great cause for celebration. So finally, here in this last little bit, I mentioned Jesus Christ and how it connects to everything that I've been talking to, a little bit about my history. I didn't just fall off a tree yesterday and land on this planet. I have a history, and I've been through a lot, and I've overcame a lot. And I just want to share that so you can get a little bit about where I'm coming from. And not only that, but the most important stuff in my life I haven't even shared about yet, which is my wife and I's experience with our children and with each other. And that'll hopefully be another installment. But also, Jesus Christ is important because of these ideas that I'm putting forth here, that I'm highlighting here, that are within the good book. But it says, woe to the letter kills. It's not written down in ink. It's living in your heart. So, with that being said, I thank you for passing a good time, like we pass a good time. Paix soit, avec toi. Peace be with you. And thank you so much for enjoying this. Peace.
I see that you're ready. Cut out that buffing and blowing and hold yourself steady. You can't really blame me. It's so hot. Get out them clothes, motherfucker. Let me see what you do.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright.
Ain't no worries, no hurries, and no thirst. When you riding with Jah, abundance comes first. Ain't no worries, no hurries, and no thirst. When you riding with Jah, abundance comes first. The strongest medicine known to man includes FaceTime with family and lending a helping hand, showing love and respect to everyone that you can, like a boucherie, a fédo or a coupe de man. Tout sweet, tout le monde, tout le même chose. Unity, we I and I in the Tao flow. Slow-mo, robo, aho, YOLO. Human beings survive, don't end up like a dodo. No mistakes. Daily we overcome challenges to release and enhance our character traits. No mistakes. Daily we overcome challenges to release and enhance our character traits. Another reason, you ain't gotta worry, that's an intelligent force erupting like a fury. Another reason, you ain't gotta worry, there's an intelligent force erupting like a fury. They're coming from within, organizing previous control and constraints, increasing freedom of action. With evolution's great propensity for fault tolerance, using order, disorder, and quasi-order conglomerates to increase utility and range of motion in this petri dish floating in the infinite ocean. To increase utility and range of motion, we a petri dish floating in the infinite ocean. Speaking of the infinite mathematically, and the understanding that only comes about creative consciously, any belief, definition, and system of logic in front of you, y'all be able to transcend and go beyond the proof. Any belief, definition, and system of logic in front of you, y'all be able to transcend and go beyond the proof. The infinite is a live present event. You can reach it with your own 2 cents. The infinite is a live present event. You can reach it with your own 2 cents. It's time we understood biological empathy. Physiologically, when people get together, instant symphony. Vagal tone synchronizes. oxytocin on the rise, and epigenetics surprises, neuroplasticity optimizes. Everyone on planet Earth's been affected by the drama. Releasing allostatic burden load is how to heal the trauma. It's dramatic. Sometimes you gotta spit and vomit to get it in, readjust it, and release it. With healing tears, cry a bit. Our optimal psychoneuroimmunological functioning demands it. With healing tears, cry a bit. Our optimal psychoneuroimmunological functioning demands it.
And don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. And don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
This is the neurogenic, epigenetic, epiphenomenological influence on the societal organisms' optimal function. This is the neurogenic, epigenetic, epiphenomenological influence on the societal organisms' optimal function.